Welcome to another installment of Eco, and I've been dying to get back and talk about this game, because the devs have been beavering away at some new features. So I'm going to cover 6 things the development team has been working on in the last 2 months, so you'll have an idea of what to expect coming up in a future release. So these are new things the development team has committed themselves to working on, and are things that have been actively worked within the last 2 months. What I'm unsure about and can't make any statement of right now is exactly when we're going to get these features in our hands. And it's also possible that other features they've been chipping away at could show up as an update along with, or maybe instead of, these features. But I thought it would be good to go over the 6 known items that are in development and explore them a little bit to talk about their impacts to the game. First are some updates being made to the skill tree user interface. Now, personally, I haven't had too many issues with the interface itself. The language can be a little bit confusing as it talks about professions versus skills versus talents and things like that, but overall, the user interface is fairly straightforward, except for one area. The game is based around collaboration, in that it requires input from different kinds of skills in order to complete crafting of some given item. Where there could be some improvement is providing more visibility into the dependencies across different skills. Right now, you can make that determination, and they've done a fantastic job with using a mouse auto pop-up to see the different materials and skills it takes to make those items. But for me, I often wind up having layers upon layers of these pop-up windows to get my answer, and it's not very easy to back up a couple steps to explore a different branch. What I also accidentally do with my mouse is move it off of a given pop-up box, which can remove several layers and make me have to start all over. Because this work isn't to change the skills themselves, but only the user interface, my assumption is that they're attempting to make it a little bit easier in some way. And my guess is that it's in that area of navigation. The next thing is new food content and a new system for food variety. The cooking skills are one of the more involved ones, requiring a lot of different tables, a wide range of raw foods as initial inputs, and produces a big array of consumable foods. But here's where there are some improvements they could take. Food not only gives you energy to do work, but eating cooked foods that provides an equal balance across the nutritional areas of protein, fat, carbs, and vitamins, and is of a higher tier, also contributes to your skill generation. Players tend to discover a set of cooked foods where consistently eating 2 or 3 different ones will maintain that nutritional balance. This tends to route all of the food production and the kind of raw foods needed from farming into a much narrower band of products than what's actually available for cooks to produce. Not only are they introducing new foods, but they are changing the system for food variety. So in some way, they're going to be influencing the kind of food variety that is going to be needed in the game, which I think is not only good news for cooks, but is also good news for their farming-related skills as well. And it is possible they might start to differentiate food that is used to do work versus food that is used to generate skill points, and give each their own benefits. But that's purely hypothetical. We're going to have to see what this new system for food variety is really all about. Next is crafting table audio and bug fixes. I haven't experienced any major issues with the audio itself, but they did make some very cool changes to the sounds associated with some of the machinery. When it comes to the audio for these crafting tables, the only thing that comes to mind is the repetitive nature that many of the tables produce. For instance, the masonry table just keeps making the same tapping sound over and over and over. And if you're working in the vicinity of your table, it can kind of get on your nerves after a while. I often turn off the game sound completely just to avoid being driven crazy by an hour of the same sound droning on and on. If there's any updates to be had at all to the audio, it would be to introduce more variety in the sounds of the tables so it doesn't have that same repetitive nature. It could be improvements to the table sounds themselves, and also include that audio that has a little more natural variety to it. They're also working on the storage user interface. One thing is for certain about Eco: managing adequate storage in the game is a challenge that everyone has to overcome, and you pretty quickly find yourself shuttling goods around between the different stockpiles, carts, and chests on a pretty regular basis. The movement of goods themselves hasn't been a major problem for me, and as far as having storage units associated with a given crafting table, there is a very basic ability to link a table or unlink a storage unit in a way that just turns it on or off. What can be a little problematic though is that you often want a different storage unit linked to a table that will be feeding products into it, and a different storage unit that will be receiving finished products out of it. This is also true with stores. It would be good to be able to have a stockpile perform different functions with the store. You often want one stockpile or set of stockpiles to be designated to receive goods for purchasing through your store, and then have a different set of stockpiles designated to present your goods out for sale. This change for the crafting tables and stores would prevent a very common situation where your stockpiles get filled up by people selling you goods, which leaves your crafting tables without any open slots to place your product, essentially stopping all production. You could have one store that buys products and one store that sells products to be able to get that differentiation, and there are various ways around that problem, but it would be good to have a little more control over the input and output from these storage units. So I hope this change to the user interface will introduce a little bit more of that control. This fifth item is a little bit behind the scenes, but could be one of the more exciting features they've announced finalization work on right at the very end of July. This work is on their cloud worlds. So what is this feature? This functionality would allow players to host servers that can even accept players that don't own Eco. If you're an enthusiastic Eco player and want to create your own world, this is a great option to invite your friends without them needing to make any investment into the game, sort of, using a special citizen account that allows them to log in without owning a copy of Eco. Now, there is a good bit known about this particular feature. Every Eco world runs online in the cloud 24/7. You can set your difficulty preference, meteor impact time, and things like that. It should support 30 players online at the same time with unlimited player slots. These special citizens only live on your world, and normal Eco players can also still join your world as well. The plan is that a player can essentially rent a cloud-hosted world for $15 a month, and the citizens can join for $10 a month. So it is a monthly subscription fee. They did mention associating this feature with schools and classrooms where they can join together to conquer the global challenges that Eco presents. And this educational aspect has long since been a goal of the Eco development. But one thing seems reasonably certain. A person doesn't have to own their own copy of Eco. Like, you don't have to have it downloaded and loaded on your machine. So if people with low-performing, non-gaming PCs want to play, they may now be able to access and play Eco, which, if true, would be absolutely fantastic. Lastly is a little nugget for the developer and mod enthusiast. They are working on improving and expanding the ModKit features and general quality of life associated with making mods for the Eco game. I've got mixed feelings about using mods, as they often get erased when doing the normal game updates, or at least some of the updates. And of course, they are mods, so their reliability could be in question. But overall, the mods I've used have worked pretty well without any major game-breaking issues. The mods I'm not a big fan of are ones that alleviate or circumvent challenges in the game. Things like a chest that can hold 10 times what a normal chest does, and that sort of thing. But I have played with some really good mods that actually add gameplay. and I think it's nice that development team is giving more support to these external add-ons. I'm going to come back and talk in another video in more detail about other partially implemented features that are probably getting close to delivery, like changes to how the soil nutrients are impacted by animals, how topsoil is a thing and will behave differently than any old dirt, actual game features and items for containing toxic wastes, and some other things that we have the beginnings of now, but are on the roadmap for planned expansion and further inclusion. Like and subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Everybody take care, and I'll be talking to you later.